Truth be told, even as I write this up, I'm scared of the topic itself. It's one of the reasons I did so many LPs before getting to it. Due to what I am, I feel like I both do and don't have a leg to stand on when talking about this topic, and yet, it's one I do want to tackle. In this video, I want to discuss the topic of diversity, mostly in video games, but in general media as well. Let's talk about it, shall we? Diversity. It's an absolute hotbed of a topic, especially right now in the current social-economic landscape of society. With the current movements like Black Lives Matter and the LGBTQ+ being such a focal point, a lot more companies are flying that flag. However, most of them are doing it for all the wrong reasons. Most are only doing it to feign a modicum of care, to pander, and to make people think they are better than their contemporaries. But ultimately, it's simply corporations acting like corporations. But now we're starting to get a bit off topic. I started off with a prior example because I wanted to hit a core of why video game companies are starting to fly under the same flag of overall PC-ness, and in turn, undercut their values for the sake of pandering, which in turn leads to diversity for diversity's sake, rather than stating a point or to fit naturally into a narrative and tangibly as well. Looking at you, Neil Druckmann. While I know I'm nowhere near prominent enough to have this stance taken into consideration by any company, I want to point out something nevertheless. Companies? Pandering won't get you anywhere. The people you're trying to relate to either don't play video games or see right through your narrow-minded attempts for what they are. Simple greed. The ones blinded enough to think that you are on their side are the SJWs too busy looking to find controversy for the sake of controversy and might praise you on Twitter for it, but that's about it when it comes to support, because you can damn well believe they aren't going to actually buy your game. The flip side, however, who notice you do these things, the audience you are trying to pander to but are of sane mind, will see this as a thinly veiled attempt to entice you to play their game, or think you are more aware, or more keen, or more with it, when in actuality, you are just another pair of suits who focus tested and tested until they listen to the said vocal minority, thinking this is what the people at large wanted. Now don't write this off as me saying that I just want generic bulky white dude number 7075 walking to or away from camera with gun as the next main character in my next FPS. I'm as tired of that as everyone else is. But if you're going to add a character, add it for a reason. Their inclusion to the story should be more than just I'm the gay, trans, black, etc. one. If you add a character to a story and they're simply defined by a solitary trait and they refuse to showcase a life outside of it, as if that being the literal only thing that gives meaning to their existence, you aren't being diverse, you didn't make a character, you made a caricature. You made a piece of toast, something so bland that the one trait that you are slathering on thick to make them more than just a piece of toast is just enough to make them more than just toast. But buttered toast isn't what people are going to remember. That isn't to say there aren't companies who are already able to do the concept of diversity properly and well already. Nintendo, for example, has done a good showcase of it even way back in the 80s. They aren't perfect, mind you, even them falling under the trappings of such, with the stereotypical damsel in distress being quite the hallmark in their early Mario titles. But then, we can look in tandem to the original Metroid. For a lot of kids back in the 80s, the thought process of a person in the suit blowing through aliens and saving the galaxy being a woman was baffling. But the thing that made Samus so well written and received, ignoring other M didn't happen, was because she was an absolute badass first and a woman like 5th or 6th. Her gender didn't matter, or it did, but not in the sense of it defining her. No, Samus is defined by her past and her choices that led up to what she is today. Her losses, her victories, her connections, and her actions are what makes Samus, Samus. Her womanhood is just the cherry on top. Her being a woman didn't slow down or push her forward. Her being a woman is simply another thing that ties every piece of her together, as well as a bright light to a gender that is wholly unrepresented, especially back in the day. Zelda, from The Legend of Zelda, especially since the late 90s, has gone from the typical damsel in distress to playing just as integral of a role in saving her kingdom as Link does. Princess Peach, while still overall airheaded, has shown a level of pure badassness in her own right, from casually walking while explosions are happening to being the one to save Mario and Luigi in a couple of games. That kind of mindset can also blossom into all other genres of underrepresented characters, and some even play off their perceived weaknesses in certain regards or character traits. Sylvando from Dragon Quest XI is another good example, and while it's not stated if he is gay, trans, or just incredibly flamboyant, the air he puts on is not seen in a negative light. He's confident in himself in the way he acts and the way he does things, all without his character being boiled down to just a one-off note or a joke. Even if, funnily enough, he is literally the team's jester. Then you have cases of physically disabled characters who are able to push past their problems but aren't reduced to just that problem. Bentley from Sly Cooper is one of the best examples I can personally think of. Sure, he already had the brains department, which is a trope in and all of itself when you have a physically disabled character who's super smart, but he never lets his lack of working legs put him down, not even from the moment he initially loses them in Sly 2. Going beyond just characters and things inside the video games itself, companies can show true diversity by doing what Ghost of Tsushima did in 2018 with their initial announcement at E3. Meet Cornelius Boots. And before anyone wants to call them out for using a white person for this, and that this is somehow cultural appropriation, this man has been studying this instrument since he was 9 years old and is now 46. He received a master teaching license from a grandmaster and is widely considered one of the best living practitioners of said instrument, so please check your privilege. And companies, you need to realize that people bitching like this are not the majority. They have never been the majority, and as long as you're doing things for a reason, you can add some minorities to your game without looking for approval. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. People were calling you guys homophobic, transphobic, and racist through false claims of such, and your game still sold like hotcakes. I mean, sure, it literally doesn't function on some systems, but that's why it's doing poorly on them. Not because gamers as a whole are SJWs, and most don't give a fuck about that kind of thing and just want to be given a good experience. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to diversify, that just means you shouldn't pander for the sake of diversity. Either way, and ultimately, when it comes to diversity, when characters are added to a story, do it for a reason. Have their inclusion to the story make the entire experience better. Let them have flaws and problems just like everyone else in the world, and don't shove their differences down people's throats, because no one wants to hear that, especially in a media derived for entertainment, and because no one likes a Mary Sue. Don't be afraid to let a woman be sexy, but don't make her a pinup doll. Don't be afraid to let a character be gay, but don't make them a mockery. Don't just add them to try and get good boy points, because the internet will call you out on it for exactly the reason you're doing it. And if you have a character that isn't well received, it isn't because people at large are racist or bigoted or transphobic or homophobic or any other nonsense reason. It's because you did a poor job writing them, and no one likes having shit shoved down their throat. Looking at you once again, Neil. So, you know what's happening here. My general what's going on in the video game industry afterthoughts that I have in every single video. Before we continue though, I would like to say hello to my newest sub, Orful. Welcome, I hope you enjoy your stay here. So, I know there were a couple of cases of good examples and like good showcases of diversity that happened in other games that I missed, like the what was his name? Krem from Dragon Age Inquisition. Like, honestly, Dragon Age Inquisition is a marvelous game for showcasing diversity, but I feel like I've gotten my point across in the video, even if I didn't get to literally every example. I literally just did ones that really truly stuck in my own mind, you know? What else is happening? Oh, obviously, getting to less seriousness of the site, what's happening with Cyberpunk 2077, I do want to talk about KFC, the fast food chicken place, has announced a video game console. Yeah, just let that rattle around your brain. KFC, the fast food chicken company, has announced a video game console, and their big thing is that you're gonna be able to cook chicken or keep food heated while playing video games in the console, and it's like so many things wrong with that, and I can't even imagine how that worked without overheating the console itself. I don't know, man. I don't know. If it works, it works. Hopefully, it'll be able to beat out the Soldier Boy console. I don't know. Either way, I want everyone to have a good morning, evening, day, or night wherever you're at. Enjoy your Christmas Eve, enjoy your Christmas break, enjoy your Christmas or your Kwanzaa, your Hanukkah, your or whatever denomination of holiday you celebrate during this time. And if you're not, enjoy your 2 weeks off effectively. Uh, Either way, I'm out. Later.